Well, first of all, as I mentioned, algae is a food, but I also want you to know that algae was the first life on Earth 3.5 billion years ago. So it predates us by 3.3 billion years.
Wow.
And so it's been around for longer than anything else, and it's still here. It outlived ice ages and dinosaurs, so there's got to be something special about algae. And I also want you to know about that because algae is everywhere. It's in the oceans, and we're going to talk about the Seaspiracy because algae is what feeds the fish and the whales and just about everything else. And it's also where they get their omega-3 from. But algae is everywhere. So, but the only algae you want to consume is the, well, there's two types of algae. One is called macroalgae and the other one is microalgae. So macroalgae is basically seaweed, dulse, kelp. It's that big stringy stuff that washes up on shore. Now it does have nutritional value because it has a lot of fiber and it has iodine in it because it comes from the ocean. But it actually doesn't have much nutrition. But when I was talking to Dr. Gundry, he pointed out that he does recommend kelp noodles to a lot of his patients because they virtually have 0 calories and they're great for holding some sauces and stuff, but it's just fiber. There's no nutrients. That's macroalgae. We're not talking about that today. We're talking about microalgae. And the reason why it's called microalgae is because it's microscopic in size. It's so tiny that about something like 100 of these microalgae cells could fit on the head of a pin. And they're everywhere. As I mentioned, the soils, the rivers, the lakes, your swimming pool, your aquarium. And that's why some people think it's pond scum. But we're going to, the algae we're talking about today are the 2 strains of algae that are harvested as food crops. It's called growing them hydroponically, grown in fresh water. Tomatoes are grown that way, lettuce. So it's just a vegetable. Think of it as a type of vegetable that's grown in fresh water. Okay, so the 2 we're going to talk about are spirulina, which is a blue-green algae, and chlorella, which is a green algae. And the reason, I just want to back up again, the reason why I mentioned that algae is everywhere is like some people will go on the internet and they'll read about toxic blue-green algae and they'll be panicking. And it's like, don't panic. Those are algae that are grown in the oceans. They're not consumable by you and us humans. So what we're talking about are carefully monitored, carefully grown, harvested types of algae. Okay, spirulina. As I mentioned, it's a blue-green algae, and it's called a blue-green algae because it has 2 pigments in it which make it darker than chlorella, which is the one over here, which is just chlorophyll. Now, spirulina is known to be an energizing algae and satisfies your hunger. That's why we called our spirulina ENERGYbits, at least the first one. It also builds your skin and hair, which is why we have a second brand of spirulina called BeautyBits. So why does it give you energy? Well, it has the highest concentration of protein in the world, and 3 times the amount of protein as steak. And all of that protein is already in amino acid form, which means your body doesn't have to work to get access to it. It gets absorbed instantly. It has 18 of the 20 aminos, including all of the aminos your body cannot make. So it's called a complete protein. So in addition to all that rich protein that's about to give you energy, because when it turns into glucose, spirulina also has all the B vitamins. If you've ever looked at an energy drink can, you'll see it's loaded with B vitamins, all fake ones, of course. B vitamins convert the aminos into glucose, which give you energy. Spirulina also is loaded with iron. Iron is what carries oxygen in your blood, and that's what gives you more energy. Without oxygen, you can't survive. It releases nitric oxide that opens up your blood vessels, so it's called a vasodilator. It's loaded with omega-3 that we're going to talk a little bit about more, so it helps with your brain functioning. It has boron, which helps with thought. And spirulina is technically a bacteria. It does not have a cellulose wall. And the reason why that's important, because all these rich nutrients, there's 40 vitamins and minerals in the spirulina. All of this gets into your bloodstream almost instantly because there's no cellulose wall for your body to break down. That's one of the reasons when we first started, we actually became a sports nutrition company because the athletes found out about us, the triathletes, the marathoners, Olympic athletes, hockey players, because they found out it gave them concentrated focus and steady energy without upsetting their stomach, like all those jars, gels and bars and drinks do, which are loaded with sugar and carbs. So that's why it's very energizing. Now, when I talk about energy, we're not talking about lightning bolts from the sky. You might not even notice it at first because it's very quiet energy because it comes from nutrition, not from any caffeine, sugar, or any other stimulant. So the best way to describe how you will feel is you just feel fresh. That's it. Alert and fresh. Nothing more than that. And if you are, the other great thing about spirulina is that, and both the algae are ketogenic, they're also paleo, they're also vegan, but on the ketogenic side, they do not contain any carbs. So, and they do not decrease your ketones or increase your glucose. So you can have, if you're doing intermittent fasting like a lot of people are, like I do, you can have a handful of spirulina tablets. There's only 1 calorie per tablet, and it will stave off your hunger for hours and give you energy without interrupting your intermittent fasting. You're still in a fasted state. So that's why most people take spirulina in the morning because when you start your day, you want some energy, you're hungry. Take it as a mid-morning snack, put it in your smoothie, and have it in the afternoon. We all have a drop around 2 or 3 o'clock. It's a biological thing, and then and also definitely before you're doing any sports, running, working out, because it will give you steady energy.